fellow mutants.
Hello fellow mutants, welcome back to another video, and in this video, we are going to talk some Ninja Turtles, and how, the Ninja Turtles, the 1990s, trilogy, had had a fourth movie, had a sequel, like, how can I phrase this? The Ninja Turtles 3 movie that came out in like 1993 had a sequel like 14 years later, and we didn't even know about it. I have a pretty good idea what they're talking about, and the movie in question, which will be revealed as we read, but the movie in question has always been like, I feel like, been a topic of debate on whether or not this is technically part of the 1990s trilogy canon or its own separate thing. And I can kind of see like somewhat both sides of the coin a little bit. But let's give this a read, shall we? And I will explain why I'm talking about later on with the both. The series of the 1990s live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie secretly received a pistol sequel film 14 years later, but the installment didn't make its connection to the previous films obvious. The 40-year-old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle universe is, well, technically being 40 next year, because it didn't come out in like 1984, I believe. So I think a little bit wrong. Anyways, the 40-year-old Ninja Turtles universe is known for encapsulating the adventures of its iconic group of costumed crime-fighting turtles in assorted franchise adaptations, including in movies and TV shows rendered in animation or live action. With so many adaptations to account for through the decades, the franchise is often compelled to a reboot or brush aside the previous entry in the overall franchise to keep the canon fresh. But the 90s, by the 90s, the TMNT franchise already boasted Kevin Eastman and Peter Lair's nearly completed volume of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic series, and hundreds of syndicate episodes of the very first animated TMNT screen adaptation. In the 1990s, the franchise expanded with its first ever live-action installment, which aimed to adapt the early TMNT comics while drawing from several elements of the cartoon. The live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was influential enough to receive 2 direct sequels, and although it appeared that the franchise moved on a newer and shinier TMNT continuities thereafter, the 90s live-action movies actually secured one more sequel before the franchise progressed to the other TMNT entries. And I have to say, the 1990s film is great. It is a masterpiece. Talk to any Ninja Turtle fan, and there's a good chance that they'll agree with that. The first Ninja Turtle movie is the best Ninja Turtle movie. The 8 that we got so far, 8, 9 Turtles movies that we got so far. And I mean, like, in general, that it doesn't have to be connected to the like each individual movie, not only live action but animated movies too. But anyways, personally for me, my favorite Ninja Turtle movie, even though I'll gladly acknowledge that the 1990s film is the best Ninja Turtle film out there to date, but for me personally, Secret of the Ooze and the 2007 Ninja Turtle movie are both tied as my first Ninja Turtle. That's my favorite Ninja Turtle film. The 2007 film is because it was my first Ninja Turtle movie that I was able to see in theaters, so that kind of has a nostalgic feeling to me. Whereas Secret of the Ooze is because it's not really a good reason, but hell, it's similar to why Spider-Man 3 is my favorite. The dancing scene. Yes, Spider-Man 3 is my favorite because of the whole like emo Peter dance scene in the streets, right? Well, in Secret of the Ooze case, spoiler alert to like a 1991 film, the Turtles go to the Dance Club. They fight this mutated dog and snapping turtle, or technically it's a wolf, but tomato, and they beat the Toka and Razor, and they beat the foot, and then they dance to Vanilla Ice's Ninja Rap, and that scene alone, because I know that's where like a lot of the budget of that movie went into, is the reason why Secret of the Ooze is in the first place spot for me. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. I know that ain't a good reason, but hey, I'm doing it. Anyways, let's go. So, the 2007 Ninja Turtles movie is a sequel to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, sort of. And this is the one where I was saying that it's kind of like there's a debate whether or not this is like a sequel to the Ninja Turtles 3. Because Ninja Turtles 3 came out, I believe, in 1993. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it came out in 1993. And obviously, the TMNT movie that these turtles belong to, they say in the title, in 2007. And I can see where people are saying these turtles are all like are from the 90s trilogy, because especially towards the end when everything is said and done, I mean before we get the turtles jumping off the rooftop scene, when Spencer's looking at his like collection, we see like the Shredder's mask, the time scepter, the canister that has the ooze in it on the wall, and those three things are very similar to how said objects looked in in the live action Ninja Turtles trilogy. And in the live action, yeah, Ninja Turtles trilogy. So from that aspect, I can see why people would say yes, the '07 trilogy, the '07 TMNT is in the same universe as the 1990s trilogy, right? But at the same time, if you guys like also look at, for example, Turtles Forever, where the Turtles Forever is the 1987 Turtles and the old three Turtles teams up to essentially defeat and stop Ultron Shredder from destroying the Turtle Force. And there's this one scene, spoilers to Turtles Forever. If you guys haven't seen that yet, it's a pretty decent movie. I highly recommend you guys watching it, especially if you guys are Ninja Turtle fans. But in Turtles Forever, the Shredder, who also teams up with the 1987 Shredder and Krang at this point in the movie, and Cry as well, has kidnapped Splinter to draw the old 3 Splinter to draw in the old 3 and the 87 Turtles teams. And it's successful. And he kind of like takes them captive a little bit, showing them the Ninja Turtles like universe, right? And in this like selection of what is debatably my favorite, like debatably the best scene and personally my favorite scene of the entire movie, where the Shredder showing the two turtle teams that they're not the only turtles out there in the multiverse. There's like a plethora of Ninja Turtles, and I remember when that came out, I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool!" And that scene alone is pretty cool because they acknowledged every Ninja Turtles that came out at that time, with except on Next Mutation because we don't talk about Next Mutation. But my point is, with this long drawn out explanation, in the scene when the Shredder is showing the two turtle teams the different versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, we see the 1990. I believe it's like the 1990s version because like of the turtles. Because in each of the live action Ninja Turtles, the turtles look slightly different from their previous entry. So like the Secret of the Ooze looks slightly different from the original Ninja Turtle movie of the 90s, and then the Ninja Turtles 3 turtles and even Splinter 2 looks slightly different from the Secret of the Ooze turtles. So I do believe they went with the 1990 the original movie look in one of the slides. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because I also been wrong since I've seen that movie, because surprisingly. But there's like this one slide where it's the 1990s turtles, the live action turtles, of course, and then the other slide is these turtles that we are seeing on screen. And which is why I'm also like understanding if you guys seen that movie, the Turtles Forever movie, which is why I am also I can see why you guys would say, well, the 2007 Turtles movie isn't really a sequel to the 90s trilogy Turtles. So that's why I can kind of see both sides. The '07 Turtles being in the continuity of the Turtles trilogy, original 90s Turtles trilogy, and it's not. I can see both sides in this case. Anyways, let's keep going. 14 years following the final live-action installment of the 90s TMNT film series, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles released the 2007 animated superhero feature, aptly titled TMNT. Chronologically, it makes sense to call the anime TMNT movie a sequel, but because of its computer animated style and lack of obvious indicators to suggest as such, it's very difficult to identify it as a direct continu- continuation. There you go, of the live action series. However, clues hidden inside the animated animation success of the 2007 Turtles, it is indeed a sequel, and at least some extent. Disguised within a TMNT scene, notable items from the live-action movies are revealed among the treasures collected in Splitter's trophy room. And this is a scene that I was referring to earlier. Shredder's helmet from the first live-action film, the TGRI ooze canister from the second, and the time scepter featured in the last live-action movie are all present among Splinter's items. Splinter established TMNT established itself as a standalone movie within the franchise, but the items teased in Splinter's trophy room indicate that the live-action series and animated movie exist in the same continuity. And yeah, so this part is why I'm saying I can see where you guys are talking about is in the same continuity, but at the same time, with this also saying that it's pretty much is established as in its own continuity, which also marks why I can see why people would say these turtles aren't in the same 1990s trilogy continuity. And speaking of trilogies, I did hear that the '07 movie they were planning to have like a trilogy, I believe. I don't know what the plans were for the second or the third film. I mean, but the second film supposedly was going to have Raphael, Leonardo, and Donatello plus Splinter get demutated. Michelangelo being the last turtle that wasn't demutated, was the only turtle that wasn't demutated, right? And I believe Shredder was going to come back in the sequel, which I would have been very interested to see how they will tackle the Shredder. Which I was very happy in the 2007 movie that they didn't go into the give into the temptation of using the Shredder as the main villain. They alluded to him, but they didn't use him as the main villain. And even though I have said before that I liked this as a kids movie, but it was a bad Ninja movie in my opinion. But the Seth Rogen Turtles, I do also appreciate that aspect too, like I did with the 2007 movie, where yes, I don't believe that the Seth Rogen Turtles is the best first on the Ninja Turtles we got, but it's somewhat better than Next Mutation in my opinion. But I do appreciate from the Seth Rogen Turtles first that we didn't get the Shredder as the villain. Sure, we're gonna get him as the main villain as in the sequel, but I'm appreciative that in both the Seth Rogen and this film, we didn't get the Shredder as the main villain. So I do appreciate that. So TMNT remains one of the best TMNT movies, and I have to agree, it's definitely amongst the best. For me, I will rank the 1990s film as number one. Secret of the Ooze is number two. The '07 movie as number three. The Michael Bay movie, Out of the Shadow, number four. Then the first Michael Bay movie is number five. No, the third Ninja Turtle live action movie in general in the 90s is number five. Bay's first Ninja Turtle movie is number six. And then Seth Rogen's last. Anyways. It's last. I'm too lazy to just count the others right now. Which, if you guys want me to rank the Ninja Turtles movies in order where I think it's best to worst, let me know. I would gladly do that for you guys. So TMNT owed to previous installments was one of many aspects that kept the animation in favor as one of the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies within the franchise. Comparatively, TMNT possessed a greater Rotten Tomatoes audience score of 60% than the 36% it was given by critics. Audiences marked the film as severely underrated and praised for the creative and extensive use of nostalgia, the animation ability to deliver great fight scenes that the live actions couldn't, and its beautiful stylization of a titular turtle group. And I will say that I totally agree with the statement about audiences mark the film as severely underrated. I'm amongst those crowd that feels like the 90s, the '07 movie is severely underrated. Severely underrated. And I might be saying that because, like I said earlier, the '07 movie was my first intro movie I was able to see in theaters because I wasn't around when the first three came out. So it could be like that side of me saying it, but I do generally think that the '07 movie is severely underrated. Anyways, these characteristics are overlooked by critics, more concerned with TMNT's disjointed plot line and heavily reliant on action. Despite poor reception to the hands of critics, TMNT persists as one of the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies because it's focused on maintaining the integrity of the franchise with Easter eggs, heavy nostalgia, and stylization techniques that brought audiences back to their childhoods. It may not be readily identified as a sequel to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise, but TMNT can be considered an exceptional standalone movie. A continuation of the live-action series, Ancestors, or the perfect viewing entry for when audiences are craving quintessential Ninja Turtle action. And I have to agree, it's not a bad entry point. I think it's a fairly good entry point. Um, I do like if you guys want a really good Ninja Turtle, um movie to get into. I do highly recommend you guys get into the either the first two live action Ninja Turtle movies, um, or the '07 movie first. Like, if you guys are wanting to get into the Ninja Turtle franchise and from the movie aspect, then kind of work your way down to like, well, at least one of the shows. Just I would recommend either the '03, 2012, the '87 show, and then reading one of the comics. You guys will love it. I love it. It's good. At times, the Ninja Turtles can be nonsensical, but that's part of the charm. But yeah. So long story short, whether you guys count the '07 movie as part of the '90s trilogy canon or not, I would totally understand. I totally understand. Um, And of course, I'm not saying like, oh my god, only because I love the '07 movie so much, you guys have to love the '07 movie too. No, you don't have to. I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to like try to like hive mind you guys, but I really enjoyed the '07 movie. It's much like with the '03 Ninja Turtles series and the 1990s trilogy. The '07 movie is part of my childhood. And I watched the crap out of the 1990s trilogy and the '07 movie as a kid. To the point where I'm pretty sure that my parents and my brother and sister were annoyed with the Turtles. Not as bad as when I first got to Star Wars, when it was only 6 Star Wars movies, but still. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day. We kind of one another. And how do you guys feel about the 2007 Ninja Turtles movie? You guys like it just like you're in about feel ill about it. And do you guys count the '07 movie as canon? Let me know in the comment section down below. Love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. I will talk to you beautiful mutants later. Later, taters.